But that's not what happens. He comes when you're not at home, when your alarm is off. And guess what? You ain't got no fingerprints. He was smart. That boy wore gloves. He had the ski mask on. Your Ring doorbell didn't save you. All right, how you guys doing today? So, by the title of the video, you could be like, yo, what's he talking about? And first things first, though, just want to make sure you like the video. You know what I'm saying? Exit full screen, scroll a little bit, tap the like button, full screen and back up. But I want to say I just had like a mini revelation, right? So most people, they go to church and they listen to the pastor preach, and that's about it, right? They go about their week, they do what they normally do. They just kind of go to church and say, yeah, I went to church this week. And I guess that's a good thing, but at the same time, it's like, what do they actually do with the message? You go to church once a week, and I get throughout the week, it's supposed to be sprinklings of fellowship, like, oh, we got Bible study, maybe choir practice, something like that. But at choir practice, you wouldn't be engaging with the word. Bible study, you might just be thinking of, oh, I'm just, studying the word. It's not about the application. But then you get to church on Sunday and you're like, all right, now I learned something. But the thing is, if church is all you're doing, you're not getting anything out of it for real. Like you go to one church session a week. There's 52 weeks in a year. 52 weeks, depending on the sermon, you might be getting about, at the least, you should be getting 52 verses of word. And 52 is just a drop in the ocean, considering that there's 23,145 verses in the entire Bible. But the thing is, if you go to church once a week, you focus on the message. Let's say this week, we say the message this week is about how to love your neighbor, right? So you're like, okay, I'm working on forgiveness this week. You get a very powerful sermon on forgiveness and how to forgive people that have done you wrong and how to make sure that you can forgive them and actually mean it. And just like the way God has forgiven us for our sins, right? So you go around that week, you're forgiving people. You're like, yeah, this feels pretty good. In that week, though, it's probably, you're thinking about it like a very small amount of time, and you're not faced with an actual big problem that requires a huge amount of forgiveness that you're like, this really hurts. And then you have to turn to God to be like, yo, God, help me forgive this person, just like you've forgiven me. Also, I didn't read the full thing. There's apparently 31,102 verses in the Bible. The 23,145 is just the Old Testament, and so you're focusing on that. And then the next week comes around and you're given a new topic. And before you even mastered forgiveness, you're thrown another topic in your face and like, all right, let me apply that to my life. And then you kind of put forgiveness on the back burner, and you may just revert to how you're going about your old ways. But the thing is also, it's like, okay, you're getting this sermon, but are you doing anything that actually livens your spirit throughout the week? Are you in the word every week? Are you praying every single day that God shows you your sin and helps you work through it? Are you actually in the word recognizing, oh crap, this is a sin and I shouldn't be doing it? God, help me fight these temptations the next time I'm faced with them. Help me to fix the things that you've told me I need to fix so I can love you the way I should, and that I can walk in the light as you instructed us to do. And with church and the abundance of churches that there are, granted they're declining, so you could say that technically there isn't an abundance from what there used to be. I literally read this article from my paper that I mentioned in the last video. It says something like around 6,000 churches are being torn down or repurposed every year. 6,000 every year. And I don't know when that article came out, but even then it had to be for at least like 3 years, right, for it to be a known statistic. And that's a lot of churches. That just shows the declining amount of faith that's in our society. So then we talk about the people within these churches, and are they really doing this? Are they going to be the same people that stop teaching religion to their kids and lead to that church being repurposed or taken down or turned into a skate park within the next year? Because it's no doubt that society's kind of giving up on religion. And not even like all religions, I'd say just specifically ours. It's a real problem. And if people are doing that, there's no need for these churches. And I don't want to say they're useless, because they're really not, because it actually matters. But I say back in the day, people were probably more in tune with it. They were actually reading the word as a family. It was something they actually did together and prayed about before they ate and stuff like that. And I know I'm doing a lot of generalizing, but like I'm just going based off of what I think I see. Right? Because you got these really big preacher names. You got the John MacArthur's, you got the Paul Washers, the Vody Bachums of, YouTube preaching. And it's like, people can watch these sermons, but then they'll never open their Bibles. Because I was going to get on here and say, I think it's more beneficial for preachers to preach their sermon in front of a camera and then put it on YouTube so that anybody can see it. So people aren't just confined to their church and their preacher. Like, you can get all these different takes, and you can name them accordingly. And so there's so many verses, so church could be an everyday thing. Because why are we just reserving it for one day? It's an everyday thing. This battle is an everyday thing. It's an every moment thing. It's an every second thing that we're probably faced with a temptation. And I get that the building itself is pretty good for, like, you know, assembling everybody there for fellowship and all that, which matters. But at the same time, if we're not having, you know, group Bible study like pretty frequently, and with most of the members showing up, I'm speaking from experience. My church, I went to Bible study with my grandparents. It was both my grandparents, one other lady, and the pastor, and me. And so we're there, and I'm like, this is sad. This is sad. Most of the congregation is old people. I know they don't be doing nothing. They're all retired. Why aren't they here? Why aren't they're figuring out how to deepen their faith, especially when they're at the end points of their life? Because 90% of the people that was probably there when I was a kid aren't there anymore. Because the amount of people in that congregation that just grew old, young people stopped coming in, and then people just start dying off. It's like, this is serious. This is crunch time. You're old. You don't got much left. You better get right. Like, you should be fighting. You should be at the happiest point of your life saying, all right, let me make sure I'm at the top tier pinnacle of my faith right now, so I know for certain fact 100% till I'm going up, right? It shouldn't just be, oh, I go to church on Sunday, I'm retired, I go home, I watch my Bills play, and yeah, I watch my Cowboys, I watch my Washington national football team, I watch, oh yeah, Patrick Mahomes. Like, nah, bro. It should be, oh, we got Bible study going on. Let me put that first. Let me put God first in my life to make sure that I'm really living right. And I know that there are the diehard Christians that are in their word every day. They're praying every day. They're doing all this stuff. But the people that go to church, they're not getting this. They're not getting it. That's a simple. I was going to say they're not getting this something. They're just not getting it. Especially the Christmas and Easter only people. Right? My dad calls them CEOs, Christmas and Easter only. They only pull up to church when it's Christmas or Easter, right? Those people, they definitely not getting, they're not reaping anything. And we even talked about this when I was going over chapter 4, John chapter 4 yesterday. What's it called? They're not reaping anything. Jesus is sowing these people. He's sowing it. I didn't look it up yet, but like either way, this is getting the seed spread in their mind, right? It's getting sowed, but it's not getting reaped. The seeds are falling on the rocky ground. They can't grow roots. They accept it at the beginning. They're like, oh, this is ground, wonderful. But they're not growing roots. They're not profiting. They're not growing spiritually. They're just like, oh, yeah. In my church, we go on Christmas Eve. Everybody gets candles. You know, we sing songs, and that's it. There's not even a sermon, really. They're just like the singing, a benediction, whatever you want to call it. And then we go home. It's like, have a good Christmas. And all these people show up, more people than I've seen any other day of the year. Granted, I'm going less now because I'm at school, but regardless, when I was going, it's like, I don't remember half of these people. People are coming up to me like, it's great to see you. Like, I don't even know you.
I don't even know you.
Who are you?
Who are you people?
I ain't seen you the whole year, bro. Like, let alone, and especially if I only see you one time a year. Don't matter that you're in my church and that we're brothers and sisters in Christ. I don't know you. And I feel like that's the exact reaction that Jesus is going to have when they go up and see him. It's going to be like, I never knew you. That's going to be a tough pill to swallow. And a lot of people, they don't understand. And the reason I'm saying this is because I was watching, I mentioned in the last video, the sermon that my youth group guy, he sent to the group chat, and it was John MacArthur. And I've heard the name thrown around. I don't think I've ever seen him preach, but that was the first time, I believe. And he's talking about a story that he's shared. He mentioned a lot of times about this guy. He was like, I'll cancel my plane ride and I will stay here with you for however long it takes in the 2 months that you have or 2 weeks left to live until you understand the gospel and you can be certain that you have eternal faith. And he's like going through it with him, and he's like reading John 3:16 for like the however many times John and him had read it, and he stops halfway through and he's like, I believe, I'm gone, I'm saved. And I'm like, that's what we're missing. Not only are we missing the enthusiasm to do these things, we're missing the life or death scenario that it is. You don't know what eternal is. None of us know what eternal is, because our life is so finite. They say life is short. It's the longest thing you'll experience right here, right now, at this current moment. It's the longest thing you could imagine. Every second you're alive, you are the oldest you've ever been and the youngest you will ever be again, right? You can't understand what eternal really is. If you tell somebody, oh yeah, you're going to be eternally happy in heaven, they're like, oh boy, that sounds great. You don't understand how great that is. eternal? That's how long you've lived times infinity. That's what made me jealous of my granddad when I found out he was dying. I'm like, man, he's about to go experience eternal happiness and I gotta wait for it. Like, obviously we're told patience, and I'm not stressing over the fact that I gotta wait for it, but at the same time I'm like, I'm jealous of him, bro, because I want that right now in this world full of sadness, anger, madness, sin, evil, wicked, whatever. I was just watching this video. It was talking about how Taylor Swift was shaking her head when Ice Spice brought up God during the Grammys, and how during the Super Bowl Ice Spice was throwing up some demonic symbols wearing an upside down cross, and everybody was like, it may not be an upside down cross, and then you figure out that it was gifted to her by Playboy Cardi, and his label, that's the signature chain, is the upside down cross, and he's King Vampire and wearing all this red with the blood and the feminine dressing and whatever. It's like, this is serious. I don't remember the point I was going off of, but like, this is serious. It's a life or death thing. Eternally. You can die once. I'm not gonna die twice. I don't want to die twice. I know I want to live twice, and I'm gonna live twice. That's why I'm on here in front of I'm trying to spread this awareness. And John MacArthur was it John MacArthur? Or was it Paul Washer? It might have been Paul Washer. I'm not gonna lie. It might have been Paul Washer. I don't remember. The name wasn't in the description. I think it was Paul Washer. Yeah, because I remember he said Paul, and I was thinking he was going to start talking about Paul from the Bible, and then he was like, Paul Washer. And I was like, okay. No, it was Paul Washer, unless it was John, because John's all, you know. And somebody in this video who's probably seen him talk about the same story, however many times he's talked about it, will definitely correct me in the comments who it really was. But regardless, he was saying we can't do this out of the fear that we're going to die eternally. That's not what we're called to do. We're called to love. You're supposed to do it out of love and reverence that you have for God. The fact that Jesus then gave his life for you so that you could experience eternal greatness. Do you know what that means? You don't know what that means. Imagine the best meal you've ever eaten. You're getting a massage while you're eating the best meal you've ever eaten after you just woke up from a 24-hour sleep that felt amazing because you were fatigued for the last 7 days. All of this feelings all at once, wrap it in one, multiply it by 10,000, and then another 10,000, spread it over eternity. You can't even comprehend. We can't even comprehend that because we've never had more than one good thing like happen to us at the same time. Yeah, you may have been chilling, eating your food, and your lottery numbers come on the screen, and I got a whole bunch of money. That don't matter. That's like two good things happening at once. You may get told, you got a scholarship. While you're eating a good meal, you just got an A on your test. That's like 3 or 4 good things. But imagine all that wrapped into one, multiplied by 50 million, bro. And still, that's not even enough to cover how much we're really getting blessed. It really changes your perspective on the sacrifice that he's made for us. Let alone get into eternal happiness. This man was beaten, spit on, mocked, tortured, just for you to get the opportunity to go up to eternal greatness with God. That's crazy. We're not supposed to do it out of fear for eternal torment. We're supposed to do it out of love. Imagine that. Imagine that. You get butterflies in your stomach and you get all happy if somebody's like in front of the whatever at least I do. They hold the door open for you. I'm like, thank you, brother. Like, you're welcome. I'm like, that was such a nice gesture. Somebody tells me I'm walking. I walk to class a lot, or I walk to my job, bike to my job, whatever. Somebody gives me the wave. I'm like, thank you. I'm like, that's so nice. Let alone that's just them going and giving up like 5 seconds of their day while it takes me to cross the street. Jesus got tortured. Not for me to walk across the street. Not for me to be one space ahead in line to get quicker to my food. Not so that I didn't have to pull open the door by myself, but so that I could experience eternal happiness with my creator, with your creator. And there's people that show up one time a week, not studying the word, not praying the temptations away, and it really saddens my heart. And just like John, I believe it's Paul, he was saying like, yo, this one life, it means so much to me. I'll cancel my flight until you're saved and stay with you until you die or you're saved. It's like, because that matters. Spreading that love, making sure, like, I was just watching a video of my favorite YouTuber, or one of my favorite YouTubers. He's talking about I'm getting my Jesus tattoo removed. And then one of the other guys in the group was like, that's sacrilegious. No, he's like, well, I got the Mary, I got the cross still on me. And I'm like, you're going to hell. You're like looking at him and all the joy he's given me beforehand, and even now when I watch him, even though technically I shouldn't, because it's like it's nothing good coming out of it because it's secular, but at the same time it's like I'm looking at him, I'm like, man, everybody thinks like, oh, I believe in Jesus, John 3:16, I'm good, man, believe in him, I have eternal life. Bro, I'm looking at him like, you're gonna go to hell. I was like, literally I was imagining him in hell burning, like my Mary tattoo, my cross, my Jesus tattoo that I'm gonna get removed. Like, that's not enough. And people don't know that. And my paper's on Christianity's branding problem. You could argue that we're branded as believe in Jesus and you're saved, because that's all that people see. They see John 3:16. They see Stone Cold Austin 3:16. I don't really know what that meant. I meant to look that up at some point too. All right, so I just looked it up. So he had Austin 3:16. It's his way of referencing John 3:16 while using his last name, but at the same time, his signature catchphrase was literally just Austin 3:16 says, I just whipped your, and then hit the A word. That's not the proper representation that we need to have. There really is a branding problem when people are walking away from the faith just because some people, some bad apples ruin the bunch, some bad eggs ruin the bunch. It's like, that's not what it is. John 3:16, that's not what it is. You're looking at Austin 3:16. Why is he talking about the A word and saying he just beat somebody up? That's not what we're branded as. We're branded as love your neighbor, but people don't get to see that. And that's where the confusion comes in. People see John 3:16 and they're like, oh, I believe and I'm saved. I go to church. Oh, the pastor's talking about forgiveness. That guy that took my parking spot last week. That made me mad. Oh, well, I'll forgive him. It's over now and I feel good. God, you like that I forgave that guy for taking my parking spot and for cutting me off. I'm sorry I flipped him off, God. He didn't deserve that. No, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about, oh, this guy just robbed my house, took $10,000 worth of valuables from my house, took everything my family enjoyed out of it. They can't catch him. I'm not getting that money back. I'm not getting anything. I forgive him. Lord, I pray that that man finds you, you touch his heart, and he goes to you, and he feels deep remorse for what he's done for me, what he's done to me. Pray that. And you say, Lord, I know this bad calamity is struck me, but Lord, it is showing how much I really need you. I'm thankful for the opportunity that I have to submit to you right now and ask for your help in this tough time. That I'm human enough, that you made me enough to feel these feelings that I have right now. The resentment that I have, Lord, transform that into forgiveness for me and put that into something positive that I can push out into this world, that I can show love for somebody else through this negative time in my life. Lord, make me stronger. That's what it's supposed to mean to forgive. Not just, dang nabbit, my daughter drank the last Capri Sun. I was gonna have that. That makes me mad, but I forgive her, God. She's just a child. She knows not what she's doing. It's not that. Believe me, if that was that, bro, half the world would be saved, but that's not how it goes. And we're not marketing it as you have to read the word. If you got told the keys to life were in this book, everybody would scramble to read this book. That's one thing that I was thinking about the other day and today. I'm like, yo, something I was watching, I think it was that sermon. I was like, sin is the way that I look at sugar right now. I go to the gym dang near every day. I eat a little bit of sugar and that kind of reverts my progress, where I think, oh, that's going to bloat me up. That's going to get me fatter than I was, right? That's just a little bit of sin. It's like, oh, you do all this work, you read the Bible, all this work. That's that sprinkle of sin. And now you got to get back to that point. You fell, but you got to get back up. And I'm like, why can I apply that to the gym, but I can't apply that to my relationship with God? Why can I know every lyric to these 100 songs, but I couldn't recite the 10 commandments in order? That's the same reason I didn't pledge the frat that I was going to pledge. It wasn't a party frat, but like, that's the same reason I didn't, because they're making me memorize these people's names and careers, and I'm watching Vodi Baca tell you, I can't let nobody marry my daughter if they can't even recite the 10 commandments. I'm like, dang, I can't even recite the 10 commandments, but I claim to be a follower of God, but I can recite these 10 people, or these 7 people, their jobs, and the year the frat was founded and all this stuff, and I'm like, man, that's not right. That's the reason I'm pushing listening to secular music off. I'm like, why am I giving my time, devotion, my ears, my mind, my spirit, being, all of that into this music when I should be putting it into God honoring things, right? And I can see that so clearly with other things, but I can't put that into my relationship with God, and that's an issue. And that's not what I'm getting out of church. That's what I get out of reflecting for myself and reading the word. I'm reading that Jesus said we need to walk in the light. You need to do good. You need to do all these things But they won't tell you that in church. I mean, they might, but at the same time, you don't really grasp it the same as when you read it and reflect on it yourself, and when God opens your eyes to it. Half the things that I've been learning about the book and about just Christianity and God in general and how he operates has not been from church. Church, I feel like I'm just getting the same regurgitated nonsense. Not nonsense, but it's not even that, because I don't want to bear false witness like that. But I couldn't even tell you the last 3 sermons I done heard, bro. I couldn't tell you what they've been about. They don't make sense. Not they don't make sense. They just don't stick. And why are they not sticking? I need application. That is maybe me as a learner. That's how I learn. I like real life application. I like learning things and how I can put them into action. And I feel like church doesn't give you enough of that, or they just give it to you, oh, once a week. Here's one thing you can work on, but it doesn't really stick. Those roots, they don't stretch to the bottom. The seed gets thrown on the ground and it's rocky. They sprout up, but they don't have roots, and then they wither away. And that's what I feel like church is doing. It's a repeated process thing. I don't want to say it's trial and error, but it's kind of like trial and error. But it is trial and error. You fall and you get back up until you get it right. Like in yesterday's video, I coarsely joked. And I'm like, yo, take this temptation away from me. And granted, I haven't thought about it all day. And I probably laughed. I think I seen somebody running on campus and I low-key made fun of their run. Low-key. So I don't even think it didn't stick. And that's an issue. It needs to stick, because this is a life or death situation, and I don't think everybody gets that. Heck, I don't even get it most of the time. I get it when it's convenient for me. I understand when it's convenient, and I think in my head like, okay, this can be just me falling, and then I'll get back up. But what if we don't get that get back up time? Jesus said he's going to come at the hour you least expect it. Obviously, if the robber came when everybody expected it, your house wouldn't get broken into. But that's not what happens. He comes when you're not at home, when your alarm is off. And guess what? You ain't got no fingerprints. He was smart. That boy wore gloves. He had the ski mask on. Your Ring doorbell didn't save you. But you know what did save you? The fact that you can forgive. The fact that you love him like you love yourself. The fact that God sent his son to die on the cross for you, and you believe in him. And I'm not talking you just acknowledge his existence. You believe in what he told you. And that's what I feel churches are lacking. It's like a repeated thing. That's even in my language class. I'm learning French right now. I'm in my 4th semester of French in school. They're like, it's a repeated practice. We had it 5 times a day in my 1st and 2nd semester. They had it Monday, Wednesday, Friday in person, Tuesday, Thursday online. And it's like, it's a repeated thing. You have to keep being exposed to the language if you want it to stick. And it's the same thing with God's word. You have to keep being exposed to it. That's why I don't think church is good for it. Once a week ain't enough. It's an everyday thing. And if you're not encouraging your patrons, you can encourage your patrons. We need to forgive. We need to love our neighbors and all this, but you need to be in the word. You need to read it for yourself and have God explain what he means. You need to study it. I can't be giving class the same focus and the Bible the same focus and expect, oh, I want an A in this class, but do I have an A in God's class, right? How many hours am I spending on the Bible that I could have been spending in class? How many hours I spend in class that I could have been spending on the Bible? It's like probably a 3-to-1 ratio about class to Bible. And obviously I want to digest the Bible. And like you see me in every video, if you watch them, you see me, take it for what it is. And then at the end, I'm like, okay, this is something I need to watch a sermon on. And that goes back to my thing about, oh, we could put all the, Pastor read something, he crafts a sermon, he makes a video about it. And then everybody's just constantly watching that while they're studying, so that when they're studying, they're reading these words, and before they get to the moment where they're well versed and they understand how things correlate to each other, but they're getting a professional's opinion on how it relates. I go to the sermons because I want somebody who can pick verses from Isaiah and compare them to how they relate to John, because I can't do that. I read through it once and that's not sticking for me yet. I'm working at it. Obviously, you can show me how to conjugate subjunctive version of aller, but that junk ain't gonna stick the first time, right? You could tell me, oh, this rule, this is how it works in subjunctive, this is how it works in passé composé, but guess what? It's not gonna stick the first time. It's them rules that it's built upon. It's like, okay, if I seen that finir trans to finissant in another tense, you got to remember that it's that 3rd person plural form that it's going to take up when you conjugate it into this tense. That's how the verses work. It's like, okay, let me put this verse in my back pocket so that when I get to another verse about it, I'm like, oh, this correlates to that. It's the same thing. And if you haven't taken a foreign language or just haven't heard of it in a minute, That's kind of how it works. Like there's, the irregulars and how they work with other things. I can mention I was telling my French professor, you could tell me what a past participle is in French. I still don't know what it is in English. He'd be bringing up English like, oh yeah, this is your English participle. I'm like, they don't teach us that in English class in America, bro. They don't do that. They tell us how to have proper grammar. They tell you when to use a comma versus a semicolon. And even then, I ain't even good with it. They ain't even tell us how to use a hyphen, let alone what a past participle is. But the point stands, it's like there's verses that connect to each other from all throughout the Bible. And if you're just reading it through for the first time, or you're like, reading a book in order and haven't got to another book, or you're not taking notes, you're not going to understand it at first. It's a lifelong expedition that you have to get through to get to that mindset. And that's what we're tasked with. We're tasked with loving God, serving him, walking in the light as he's walked in the light. Jesus studied the word. Jesus was out there preaching. And if what he was doing is preaching, and we're supposed to walk in the light as he is walking in the light, we're supposed to be doing what he's doing. At the very least is we should be well versed in the book. That boy was, granted, he made up half the book we have now, but at the same time, he was like, yo, didn't Jeremiah tell you this? Yo, didn't Isaiah tell you? Didn't Ezekiel tell you this? Yo, you go back, even my boy Elijah said this. Tell me one thing that Elijah said. Can you do that? Let alone how it relates to Jesus? Let alone how it relates to how we're supposed to be walking right now? And it's easier than it seems. It's not even supposed to be a hard task, really. Just read your word. Pray to God that he helps you through it all, right? Yeah, you got family game night, but do you have family pray night? Which should be every night. Do you have family Bible study? You know what I'm saying? Are you educating your kids? Are you educating yourself? Because it's a life or death thing. Paul Washer was talking about I cancel my flight, stay with this man for about 2 weeks just so he may be saved. And then there's me over here. I'm scared to tell the gospel to, people who I know are destined for hell. Not because I don't love them, but because I'm scared that they're not going to love me after I tell them. And I don't want that. I don't want these people to not have love for me after that. They're like, oh, he's one of these. He's going to insult me and degrade me and tell me I'm a sinner. They don't understand that I am too. And the difference between me and them is not that I don't sin and I love God so much. It's the difference between me and them is I submit and I ask God to help me through what I do because I understand, because I believe in Jesus and what he said. It's not that I'm so much better than you and that I'm not a sinner. Trust and believe, bro. Trust and believe, bro. But if God can't make you a new creation, then who can? If the guy who preaches forgiveness can't forgive you for what you've done, what's the point? But the point is he can. And there's no difference between you and me. Your works are bloody rags, bro. The works I done, I'm throwing freaking menstrual tissues at him, bro. He don't care about that. He don't care about that. He cares, but it's not to the degree that you think. He loves that we love him and put in the effort. Why do you think your kid's little refrigerator drawing of a stick man with a freaking half circle sun with some lines coming out of it is pinned on the fridge like it's Picasso? It's not because it's good. It's because of the effort. Why do you think that little macaroni dad and son picture is up hanging on the fridge? It's because it shows he loves you. You could care less about if some random kid on the street came up to you with some macaroni art like, yo, look at that macaroni drawing, you'd be like, cool, bruh. What am I gonna do with that? But when it's your kid coming up to you, Dad, look at what I made. It's you and me. Macaroni. You're like, oh my gosh. My kid really loves me. And that's exactly how he looks at us. You tell your kid, yo, go do your homework, and he does his homework, you feel good because it's like, yo, he listened to me. He obeyed me. The same way God would look down at us like, yo, look at him doing that. And yeah, you may mess up from time to time. You may be outside playing with the football, whatever. The football goes over the neighbor's fence, hits their potted plant outside and breaks it. Now you got to pay for their new plant vase, dirt, whatever. And yeah, but you're not going to look at your kid like, I don't love you anymore. It's just going to be a momentary lapse like, hey, you messed up. You realize you messed up. You're not supposed to throw the ball over the fence. What I told you, you're not supposed to throw it that hard, something like that. Keep it in the yard. I don't know what I told you, but blah, 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 blah. But you messed up. I don't mean I don't love you. It's just I don't want that to happen again. But it's a learning lesson. You thank God for the opportunity to grow. It's like I said earlier, thank you, God, for giving me the opportunity to forgive the robber who robbed my house, to make me realize that without all my possessions, I have more time to give to you. And I can realize the love I have for you because you're not letting me think about it like that. You're not making me think of what I've lost on this earth, because who stores up rewards on this earth when I could be storing up rewards in heaven? And I feel like we're not grasping that concept that it's a daily thing, that you really need to work at it, and it's life or death. And that's the point of the video. All right, that's going to be the end of the video. Hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day. Peace.